Sometimes, history doesn't unfold in grand capitals or global summits. Sometimes, it begins in the most unexpected places, like a quiet town in southeast Georgia. On an ordinary Thursday morning, the sprawling Hyundai manufacturing plant roared to life as it always had. Workers clocked in, machines rumbled, and the daily rhythm of production filled the air. But by mid-afternoon, that rhythm was shattered. Federal agents poured into the facility in what would become one of the most extensive immigration raids in recent U.S. history. The target? The workforce behind one of the region's largest employers. By the end of the operation, 475 workers were in custody, the vast majority Korean nationals. The sheer scale of the arrest stunned both the local community and the world. For neighbors, it was an image they couldn't reconcile. This wasn't a shadowy, underground operation. This was Hyundai, a global brand, a pillar of the local economy. And yet, in that moment, it had become the epicenter of a geopolitical storm. News traveled fast across the United States and then across the Pacific. In Seoul, South Korea's leadership wasted no time. President Lee Jae Myung convened an emergency meeting, declaring that all-out necessary measures must be taken to support our citizens. His words reflected both urgency and a broader concern that this wasn't just about immigration paperwork, but about dignity, rights, and national pride. Foreign Minister Cho went even further, signaling a rare level of personal involvement. If necessary, he said, I am prepared to personally travel to Washington, D.C., to engage directly with U.S. officials to resolve this matter. This was not standard diplomatic language. This was a line in the sand. Back in the United States, South Korean officials moved swiftly. The Korean ambassador in Washington and the consul general in Atlanta activated an on-site response team at the Hyundai facility. Their mission? To assess the situation, provide legal and humanitarian assistance, and most importantly, ensure that the rights of their citizens were protected. In their statement, they emphasized more than just the arrests. They pointed to the economic ties binding the two nations together. Korean businesses, they said, had invested billions in the U.S. economy. Those businesses, and their employees, deserved protection from what they called unfair violations. But behind the official statements lay deeper questions. What exactly prompted such a massive raid? Were the workers caught in a bureaucratic net, or was this a sign of shifting U.S. immigration enforcement policies? And how would this operation impact the fragile balance of U.S.-South Korea relations? For decades, the two nations have been allies tied not just by defense agreements but by trade, culture, and shared values. South Korean automakers, including Hyundai, have built sprawling plants in America, employing thousands and fueling local economies. But this raid threatened to cast a shadow over that partnership. For the workers and their families, the impact was immediate and personal. Homes left empty. Communities shaken. Children wondering if their parents would return. In Georgia, residents watched in disbelief. Many had friends and neighbors who worked at the Hyundai plant. To them, this was not about politics. It was about people they knew, people who had built lives, paid taxes, and contributed to the town's growth. Yet, for federal authorities, the message was clear: no one, not even employees of multinational corporations, would be above U.S. immigration laws. Analysts say the coming days could determine the true weight of this raid. Will it remain a local enforcement story? Or will it escalate into a diplomatic flashpoint, testing the resilience of an alliance built over decades? For South Korea, the stakes are high. With national pride on the line and hundreds of citizens in custody, pressure on the government to act decisively is mounting. For the United States, the challenge lies in balancing domestic enforcement with international diplomacy. How Washington responds may ripple far beyond Georgia, setting the tone for future cooperation or confrontation with one of its closest allies in Asia. As of now, one thing is certain: what happened in a quiet Georgia town is no longer a local story. It's a global one. A story of law and rights, of business and diplomacy, of people caught at the intersection of politics and power. And as this drama unfolds, both nations and the world are watching closely. Because sometimes, a single raid doesn't just detain workers. It detains the very trust between nations.